Welcome back to Patent Trademark Blog. This is Patent and Trademark Attorney Vic Lynn, and in this video, we're going to be talking about trademarks. We're going to keep it really short, and we're going to get into just the basic differences between a word mark, which is also a standard character mark, and a design mark. So let's dive in. I have on my screen here an example of a word mark, or Oslo for jeans. And now you could tell that it's a word mark because right here it says standard characters claimed, standard character mark. That is different than a design mark, as we have here, where you have a very stylized logo and it could have a combination of graphic design and wording. And so, what's the difference? Well, with a word mark, you can use that wording on your goods or services regardless of the style. So you could use different fonts, you can have some graphic design to it. As long as that wording stays the same in your usage, you can continue to maintain or renew a trademark registration for a word mark. When you file for a design mark, you have to use that exact logo in that exact way on your product. You can't change the arrangement of the elements here. You can't move words around. You can't change the font. You can't change the logo or any design elements. It has to be exactly that way. So which one should you file? Well, it depends. If you want greater flexibility in your usage, I would file for the word mark and just have standard characters, where we type in the actual spelling of the mark, and it doesn't matter whether you file in uppercase or lowercase. Sometimes you'll see word marks that have an uppercase letter at the beginning of each word. It really doesn't matter because you can use uppercase or lowercase if you're filing for standard characters. With a design mark, you have to show that exact logo, and when you file the trademark application, you have to upload a JPEG file of the logo. What you'll need to figure out is whether or not you want to file it in black and white or color. Generally, I prefer just filing it in black and white like you have here, because then what you're saying is you're not claiming color in this design mark. So the actual colors in the usage of the mark, when you file specimens of use, the colors can be anything, and when you file in black and white. Filing for a design mark also gives you some additional arguments to say why it is different than another trademark that has been cited against you. So say you file a trademark application for a design mark and the examiner rejects your trademark application on the basis of likelihood of confusion over some other trademark registrations that the examiner thinks, or examining attorney thinks, is confusingly similar to your trademark. Well, a design mark would give you some additional arguments that a word mark application would not give you, because you could argue that, hey, in my design, I have some very specific graphic elements that make my design mark distinguishable over those other registered trademarks that are being cited against you. Wanted to show an example of when a word mark might run into problems if you try to file for standard characters for a particular stylized trademark like this. So notice in this trademark, we have the letter B that's in the image of a bow in this crossbow trademark, design mark. If you were to try to file for this as a word mark and then you submitted some specimens that showed the mark in this stylized manner, the trademark examining attorney might give you an objection or a rejection to say that this is really a special form drawing that should be filed as a design mark. Now, I'm not necessarily agreeing to that position, but I'm just saying this is a risk that if you have a highly stylized logo where the letter is in the image of an object, sometimes you might have a design mark where the letter T or the letter I is in the form of some kind of object like a tree or a building or something like that. in those cases, you may need to file for that trademark as a design mark application and not as a word mark because certain letters are shown as objects. So I just want to give you an example of that. I have an article here where I get into the details of a word mark and design mark, and I'll link to that in the description below. But I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.